my friend, and welcome. This image that you see of me, my body, and the sounds you hear of my voice depend on this device that you're looking at. You're perceiving me and my voice on. The screen of the device shows the image of me, the image of this body, and the speakers, whatever you have for speakers, whether you're looking at this on a laptop or a cell phone or a computer, allow you to hear my voice. If you took away the device, where would this image of my body be? It wouldn't exist. If you took away the device, where would the sound of my voice be? It wouldn't exist, would it? So, what you're really looking at, what you perceive as an image, is really the screen of your device. Now it has an image of this body on it and the sounds of this voice. And after a while, it may be emails or another person speaking, another image, appearance of a person speaking on it, many different things. It could be a sunset, all kinds of different images can come on this screen of your device, right? One image after another, changing images. And yet all of them depend on the device itself, on the screen itself. If you took the screen away, if you took the device away or it broke, then none of these images would appear. You wouldn't see any of these images. You wouldn't hear any of these voices without the device. So all the appearances, all the sounds are really this device, not what it appears to be. It appears to be right now this body, which you're equating with me, and the sound of my voice, which you're equating with me speaking to you, but really it's just the device. It's just the screen. It's just the speakers. Without those, there is no voice, is no sound of a voice. Without the screen, there is no appearance of this body. So all of this depends on the screen. Now, what does this have to do with consciousness and reality and awakening? Well, it's really the same, because if we were in the same room, if you were in the same room with me, you wouldn't need the device to see me. You could just look at this body with your eyes in the same room. Don't need a device. You could hear my voice without a device. You're in the same room with me. But still, in order to see the appearance of this body, you need eyes and a mind. You need ears to hear the voice. So that, in a way, is also, because those things come from consciousness, awareness, don't they? If you took the eyes away, you couldn't see this appearance, could you? If you suddenly went deaf, you couldn't hear this voice. And the hearing and seeing come from consciousness, from your experience, come from consciousness. Your thoughts come from consciousness. However, you're interpreting these words in thoughts is coming from awareness, consciousness. All of it comes from consciousness. Consciousness is like the device that you're looking at, only much bigger, because all your experiences come from consciousness. Consciousness is the screen, the device that all your experiences appear on. Every experience. Seeing, feeling, sensing, thinking, all of them. Tasting, touching, all of them come from consciousness. All of them depend entirely on consciousness, depend entirely on awareness. Without awareness, you have no experiences. No touch, no taste, no smell, no sight, no seeing, no hearing, no thinking, no feeling. All of these depend entirely on consciousness. Consciousness is the screen that all of these things appear on, all your experiences appear on and depend completely on. They're not separate things from consciousness, they are consciousness itself. All your experiences are nothing other than consciousness. Just as when you're looking at this image of me and hearing this voice, this appearance of me on your device, on the screen that you're watching this on, none of this is really separate from the screen, is it? If you try and touch me, if you put your hand over and try and touch me, what you're going to do is touch a screen. You're not going to touch a body, you're going to touch a screen. If you shut off the computer, you're not going to hear the voice anymore. It all depends completely on this device. What you're watching depend on this device. And what you're experiencing, even if you're in the same room with me, depend on consciousness, depend entirely on consciousness and awareness. None of what you experience is other than consciousness awareness. So the screen that this appears on is consciousness awareness. The device that you're watching this on is also consciousness awareness. Because without consciousness and awareness, it wouldn't exist. So this device that you're watching this on is also consciousness awareness. Everything that you perceive, that you see, is consciousness awareness. Everything that you hear is consciousness awareness, being, presence. Without this, none of that could exist. Everything that you see, this device, this appearance on the device, trees, mountains, rivers, birds, the sky, clouds, it's all consciousness awareness. There is nothing other than consciousness awareness in this world. This world itself is consciousness awareness and nothing other than consciousness awareness, taking the form temporarily of a world, of a sky, of clouds, of this computer device, of the image on the computer device, this body, your thoughts. All of this is consciousness awareness appearing to be something else for a moment, but never being other than consciousness awareness. Ramana Maharshi had a wonderful 3-sentence explanation for reality, for enlightened reality, just reality, no longer in a dream, actual reality. And it was Brahman, God. All there is Brahman, God. Brahman is all that exists. We could use the word consciousness, awareness, to make it easier to understand. Consciousness is all that exists. The world is an illusion. The world is consciousness. Consciousness is the world. Consciousness is the world. God is the world. Brahman is the world. So we're using God and consciousness and Brahman interchangeably, as we should, because it's easier to understand this as consciousness awareness. You have too many ideas about God, too many thoughts about God, about Brahman, too many thoughts and concepts that prevent you from experiencing what this is. It's easier to experience it as pure awareness or consciousness. It's the same thing. Consciousness is all that exists. The world is illusion. Consciousness is the world. So this pretty much sums up reality in 3 sentences. All that exists is consciousness. Consciousness is all that is. If you took consciousness away, nothing could exist. The world is illusion. This body, this appearance of a body, this experience and sensation of a body that is experienced here, the thoughts in this mind that are experienced, none of that could exist without awareness, without consciousness. All of it depends completely on consciousness. Everything that I see, everything that you see, depends entirely on consciousness. Without consciousness, there's no seeing, there's no experience of seeing, let alone anything to see. So when we see the world as something separate and other than consciousness, other than God, that's illusion. It is only God. It is only consciousness. That's all there is. So the world as separate objects, separate independent objects, independent of consciousness, is an illusion, of course. It has to be. How could it exist without consciousness? How could it be separate from consciousness? If you took consciousness away, there is no world. There is no you. But you can't take consciousness away because consciousness is ever present, eternal, infinite, limitless, has no birth or death. So consciousness is always present, always here. But if you could take it away, nothing else would exist. So everything depends on it. Nothing is separate from it or could ever be separate from it. Therefore, everything that you perceive, everything that you see, hear, taste, touch, feel, think, is consciousness, really. Cannot be other than consciousness. So consciousness is the world. What you're really seeing when you think you're seeing the world is consciousness, is awareness. That's what you're really seeing. That's what I'm really seeing. And I am consciousness, and you are consciousness. There is nothing but consciousness. There is no separate body mind separate from consciousness, just as nothing else can be separate from consciousness. There is only consciousness. Consciousness is the world. Consciousness is the body. Consciousness is the mind. Consciousness is what we perceive and feel as a separate self. It's just consciousness. It's not a separate self. That's an illusion. That's a dream. It's all consciousness. This is the nature of non-duality, the nature of truth, the nature of reality. It all is this. We can let go of the words awareness, consciousness too. If we have any baggage, any thoughts about what they are, we should let go of that and just experience. Just be. That's consciousness. That being is consciousness. That pure being is consciousness. Consciousness knows itself by pure being because it is consciousness. It is itself. So it can only know itself by being itself. And it is itself. So it always knows itself. Consciousness always knows itself. The mind has focused and conditioned this experience into being something of a dream, an illusion, like falling asleep. But consciousness is always self aware as it's being itself. And when we let go of being something, someone, some separate person, and seeing the world as separate from what we are, as something separate, then we're also being and also self aware. Not aware as an object, not aware of all these objects that we see, seeing them as objects, as separate objects. That's just a dream. That's the illusion. That's the magic trick. But simply being aware of being itself. And everything that we see is also the same being, the same self aware being, appearing as a person, a thought, a feeling, a sensation, a seeing, a sight, a hearing, sounds, images, colors, appearing as all this myriad, amazing appearances, amazing things, and yet still not a thing, only ever consciousness itself. That's why we say an appearance, appearing as, but not as. Just as on your device, this image of this body, this person, appears on your device. And yet it's still just the screen of your device. This image is an appearance. Again, if you try and touch this image, what you'll touch is the device, is the screen, not a flesh person, just the plastic screen. So this appears to be on something that's flesh and solid, when actually it's just the screen itself. And the world that's more three-dimensional, so we can touch and smell and feel and taste and have more three-dimensional experiences of it, is still an appearance. Touching is an appearance. Seeing is an appearance. Hearing is an appearance of something else, something more, something truer, an appearance of consciousness itself. All our life, we've been conditioned to not see this anymore. Even though this has always been our experience, we've been conditioned to believe that these objects are separate, that there's me in the world, that I live inside this body, and the world is outside this body. And we perceive the world, all of us, all multiple billions of humans experience life in this way because we've all been conditioned to do this from the moment we were born. Our mind has been programmed and conditioned to see things in this way, to ignore our direct experience and instead believe our thoughts. All of us have done this. It's very convincing. It's a very convincing dream. And yet truth is to return to consciousness itself, to the very nature of consciousness itself, the very being of consciousness itself. Not inside us. I'm only saying to focus our attention on consciousness itself by letting go of the world for a moment so that we just experience pure being without distracting our attention to the world, including a body and a mind. We let all of that go and just experience pure being. And then when we turn our attention to the appearances of the world, to the objects of the world, of sight and a body and of thoughts and appearances of mountains and rivers and trees and people, when we return our attention, when we shine the light of consciousness on all that, it's still consciousness. It's all really consciousness, just appearing to be something else. And these appearances are wonderful because consciousness experiences these appearances with just absolute love, absolute, unconditional love. It's the very nature of consciousness itself. Nothing in all the world is separate. It's all consciousness. It only appears to be separate, only appears to be different because of our conditioning, because of our mind, our programming. But it never has been, never could be. Thank you, my friend. Enjoy being.